Welcome to Comic Shop News. I'm Dan, and today we're going to be continuing our review series of Friday the 13th. Today with Friday the 13th Part 3. So the first thing I'll bring up about Friday the 13th Part 3 is that it was put out in 3D. My sister and I managed to convince my aunt and her soon-to-be husband to take my sister and I to go see it in the theater. I'll freely admit, I freaked out during the movie, and I had to go play Donkey Kong for a while until I settled down. I got freaked out by it, which, watching it now, I cannot remember what it was that made me freak out, because I sure as hell was in there when one of the great 3D scenes happened in it. So, the first couple of minutes of the movie are recapping what happened in Part 2, just so you're all caught up on Jason. And it's then goes on to this little general store out there, and we meet Harold and his wife Edna. Harold is basically a schlub. Edna feels like someone who's tired of their husband, and she's out there looking at the laundry on the line and sees someone walking around, thinks it's Harold. Harold's too busy eating pieces of food out of different packaging. At one point he eats fish food and then sees it has bayfly eggs in them, as there's a shadowy figure walking across the window. One of the things that I will say about this movie that starts a disturbing trend is fucking with people while they're in the shitter. Harold is in there having an explosive attack in there, and he gets up to see what's going on, gets stabbed. There's another scene with the Friday the 13th series has a lot of bathroom scenes. It's very weird. We then move on to Jason wipes Edna and Harold out, and then we go on to the credits with the cool disco music of the Friday the 13th theme by, I believe it's Hot Ice. So we meet our main protagonists. We meet Shelley, Andy, Tracie Savage's character, Debbie, I believe her name was, and Chris. Chris is probably one of my least favorite of the series female protagonists. I don't know what it is about her. Something about her bugs me. Shelley is just basically the Eeyore of the group. He is an actor. He also is like the boy who cried wolf. Andy is his roommate. And Debbie is his girlfriend. And they're going to pick up Vera. Vera is a little bit of a firecracker. Her parents don't want her, or her mother doesn't want her going. They start yelling. As they go out, they see like the van that they're in there's smoke coming out of it. And then we meet basically what is Cheech and Lady Chong. Lady Chong is named Chili, and I can't remember what their version of Cheech is, or actually maybe he's the Chong. Anyway, they're the burnouts of the group, and they're driving, and you see Harold's store. The cops are there, and ambulances, and Chris is a little freaked out. We also get the reveal that Debbie is pregnant, or at least she says she is. It's one of those weird series, and good God, a lot of this movie takes place in a barn. We then learn Shelley is a bit of a prankster. They get there, and we meet Chris's maybe boyfriend, love interest, Rick, who looks like he's 40. He looks like he wears an ascot, like Fred from Scooby-Doo. Shelley pulls a prank, like he has his makeup kit and he has like an axe in his head, and makes it look like he was attacked. Basically, everybody starts to hate him after that. Him and Vera go to a store, which you find out it's in New Jersey because the sign there says New Jersey. It's also playing the theme from this movie in the store, which is also an interesting move. And we get our toughs of town, Loco, Ali, and Fox. Fox is messing with Vera. She takes Shelley's wallet that he throws and kind of messing with them. they leave the store, and Ali's out there, and Shelly goes to drive and throws Rick's Volkswagen Beetle into reverse and runs over the motorcycles, kind of like in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Ali goes in, punches in the window, Shelly freaks out, and then drives over their bikes again and drives off. They come back, Rick is freaked out, him and Chris basically go for a drive, and we kind of go into her history a little bit, where her and her mom had a fight, and she ran out into the woods, and she was attacked by this hideous man who just happens to be Jason, and she may or may not have been raped or sexually assaulted. They don't really go into it. She just says she woke up back in her bed and nobody talked about it. From there, we have some juggling. There's a lot of juggling between Shelly and Andy. Of course, then we get into, the sexual innuendos, blah, blah, blah. Shelly tries to make his move on Vera, and he is basically turned down. And he gets upset. He pulls another prank on Vera where he's wearing a hockey mask and a scuba suit and goes in the lake and, kind of grabs her legs. She gets mad at him, and he walks off. He sees something in the barn. Barn keeps playing out of fact. It keeps coming back. So he walks over into the barn, and you don't really see what happens. And Vera's over there. She drops his wallet by accident into the water, and she sees someone walking up wearing a hockey mask, wearing not a scuba suit. And one thing I'll say about this, Jason, Richard Brooker has, giant shoulders, almost hunched when he walks like this. And Mike and Jay from We Watched a Movie call him Traps Jason, and it fits. Definitely fits a lot. So he walks over, and she's, telling, stop playing, Shelly. And then he pulls out a harp spear gun and shoots her right in the fucking eye.
I got it. Who are you? What are you doing? Hey, now cut that out right now. That's not funny.
And, the wallet flips into the water, and she floats with it. And from there, we start into the taking down everybody. Andy has one of the more creative kills in the series, where he's walking on his hands down the hallway, and they did a creative shot where they put down plexiglass and shot up at him, and Jason takes the machete and splits him from groin down right into half. Again, one of the more creative kills in the series, where they actually did something that hadn't been done in another movie. The male version of the male guy with the Cheech and Chong group, he's in the bathroom, and he's also getting fucked with again. Again, that shitter keeps coming back. Chili's making popcorn, and then the generator goes out. Chuck goes to fix the fuses, and Jason throws him into it, and knocks the lights out. And as that's going on, Shelly walks into the kitchen where Chili's at, and his throat is slit open. She thinks that he's playing another one of his jokes, until she tries to move him and wakes him up and tries to, get him up. And she has one of those moments, the only thing I can compare, it's Tommy Wiseau-like of the overacting, where she's like, yay, Shelly's dead! Also, Debbie had been killed much in the same manner as Kevin Bacon in part 1, through the hammock through the neck. And again, it goes into that weird thing of they're kind of rehashing a lot of stuff from the other movie. You don't see a lot about the script, even the Crystal Lake Memories. They don't talk about the writing process. I know they constantly were like, this is the last one. This is the last one we're making. Oh, shit, it made money. Let's make another one. Chris and dad boyfriend Rick come back, and they see just everything's fucked up. It's a disaster. The popcorn's burning. Rick goes to look around, and this is what I was referring to earlier, one of the great 3D scenes that as a kid blew my mind, but you watch it now and you can obviously see the string. Jason is grabbing Rick by the face and squeezing it, and he squeezes his eyeball right the fuck out. And like he's holding him up where his feet aren't even touching the ground. And we go into another one of those great Jason chasing the survivor girl around. And this Jason, he gets fucked up. Like, he gets stabbed in the leg, and there's a great scene where she stabs him. He's on the ground. He's, kind of has a little scream. Pulls the knife out and throws it at the wall, just barely missing her head, and she freaks out and does like a Scooby-Doo run right out of the room. Of course, everything leads to the barn yet again. And when she gets in, now we find the bodies of Fox and Loco in there. Ali earlier got the shit kicked out of him from Jason. He went over walking in, and Jason hit him with a couple of Rocky Balboas and knocked his ass out. So Chris gets in the barn. She manages to hide from Jason. She's in the rafters, and for some fucking reason, instead of just staying up there, she decides to jump down at him. And again, another cat and mouse game where she gets up the stairs of the barn, puts some hay in it, hides with a shovel, and waits for him. He gets up there. He's walking to try and find her. She comes out from behind, just freaking hits him with the shovel and kind of throws him for a loop for a bit. And one thing I like, though, they show Jason kind of hobbling. He's still human at this point, or humanish with inhuman strength. She puts the rope around his neck and throws him down the barn to the outside and hangs him. She gets downstairs. Happy ending, of course, She goes to open it up, and there's Jason just swinging. And all of a sudden, he grabs the rope, pulls himself up, and he pulls his mask up, and he goes, ah! No, he doesn't say that. But basically, it's a, hi, I'm the guy who sexually assaulted you. Ha, ha, ha. And she starts freaking out, saying no. And then he puts the mask down. And he's starting to go after her, when all of a sudden, Ali jumps out of nowhere. And you're like, all right. I'm rooting for kind of a bad guy to take on the bad guy. He literally gets his hand cut off, and then he's done. And we lead to Chris having her final girl moment, taking an axe and sticking it right into his head. And one great thing about this axe hit, throughout most of the movies, that for some reason that's the only thing they'll keep in canon, anything that happens to the mask. So there's an axe mark in the mask after that. And as she hits him in the mask, he's still coming at her like Frankenstein. And it happens a couple of times. And then he's gone. He's down. And then we go to the usual getting in the canoe and going out into the fucking lake. Which leads to a dream sequence where all of a sudden she's looking in the window of the house or the barn. And it might have been the house. And all of a sudden, he has the mask off, he sees her, and then is running around the house and then running out the door. And then she wakes up. There is also a deleted scene, or a scene they shot but never used, where Jason beheads her. The footage is out there if you want to look for it. But then it goes to a double dream sequence where now Pamela Voorhees is in the lake and grabs her, which makes no sense at all because how would she know what Pamela Voorhees looks like, or Pamela at all would be in the lake, considering she is a fucking decapitated head? Just little things like that, it's kind of annoying. This movie, of course, it introduces the hockey mask, which now has become kind of Jason's brand. And, of course, there's many people who take credit for it. Nobody's actually 100% sure who brought it to set. But it made Jason an icon. The sack head wasn't going to make him an icon, but the hockey mask sure as hell did. Richard Brooker, top 5 Jasons for me. I really liked his performance in it, and of course he's a short guy, but he's squatty and kind of muscular. Not quite like Kane Hodder type, but Brooker's performance I thought was pretty fantastic, and he brought something different to the role. Kind of like in the next one, Ted White brings something very different to the role with the way he wanted to portray it. And the 3D in this movie sucked. Flat out sucked. It was a good gimmick, but it sucked. Even the people like who were making the movie hated doing the 3D because you'd have to keep doing the shots over and over. Again, I'll keep referring this during the series. Crystal Lake Memories. Great information and like behind the scenes stuff on this. Of course, the actress who played Chris had tons of problems with her character and the whole sexual assault angle. Yeah, one of those weird movies. The guy who played Rick seemed to like really be proud of this movie though, and Tracie Savage, who later was on, she's a newswoman in LA and was part of your local, here's O.J. Simpson and his Bronco doing, you know, the play-by-play of that. This isn't my favorite Friday the 13th. I'd say it's like middle of the road for it. It's good, but it's not great. But again, it brings you some iconic stuff. The barn still, to me, is just, it's way too much of that fucking barn in this movie. I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. Again, good, not great. Some of the gimmicks I thought hurt the movie. The characters, for the most part, weren't lovable. I do end up feeling bad for Shelley, though, because, I mean, the guy was just a schlub. He really was. Larry Zerner, though, always seems to be pretty happy to talk about it. Seems like a really cool guy, and he actually, in real life, became a pretty great attorney, and also he won a 1 versus 100 game show. So pretty smart dude, and actually he did some play-by-play of the Victor Miller, Sean Cunningham rights issues of how it goes legally. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for watching. Hopefully with the hurricane coming, I managed to find time to do this. I won't be knocked out for too many days to do part 4. So thank you, comment, like, share, subscribe, and see ya.